technology is important. Yes, chemistry is important, but there are nature-based solutions that we need to activate as well. The Brits, there is no culture of collecting fungi, and whenever they eat fungi, it's collected by the Welsh or other people. There is evidence that people in the city, the more green they have, the best they are.
Thank you for watching. Please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. Every like and subscribe is a free way to support us, expand our reach, and plant new ideas. Well, first, thank you for inviting us to your home here in Paris, France. We're happy to be here. I wanted to start with one of your most popular books.
Indeed, the first one.
And this is the first one, and it's titled Never Alone. So most people look at plants and they think of it as just one organism. But in your book, you share how it is a whole living community.
You know, it starts from very deep in the history. The greenness of the plant, that's something that is due to the presence of plastids, chloroplasts, which are teeny part of the cell performing photosynthesis. We know now that those are endosymbiotic bacteria, that means bacteria living in the cell. And those bacteria, they are fed by the plant with minerals and other things and protected by the plant cell. And they perform the photosynthesis for the plant. They divide, and whenever the plant cell divides, each daughter cell receives some chloroplasts. So already the greenness of the plant should tell us that there is association with microbes in plants. But there is more. There are microbes all in the plant, everywhere in the plant. In plants, the cells are slightly separated from each other, which allows the gas to go to diffuse and to bring oxygen or CO2 to each cell. Those tiny holes are connected to the atmosphere, and by those connections, called stomata in the leaf, lenticel in the twig, those connections from the inner pores to the air is a way for microbes to enter. So there is a colonization cell to cell, I would say. The cells are surrounded by pores in which there is a ton of microbes. In 1 gram of leaf, you have 30 million bacterial cells. In one leaf like that, leaf from this geranium, you may have something like 100 of species of fungi. And
did you say 100 species of fungi on that one leaf?
It means that for such organism, these leaves, it's like Paris and the surrounding for us. It's enormous. So there may be a lot. And those organisms are not deleterious. They just are living there. They use remains of the plant, 1 carbon compounds like methanol or methane or other things like that. They feed on that. They eat a bit of the cell wall, but they don't damage the plant, yet they protect it in 2 ways. First, against predators by being toxic. So they contribute to the protection of the plant by toxicity. Second, by the fact that to adapt living in the plant, you need to cope with free radicals.
Free radicals?
Yeah. Oxygen molecules that can be very damaging. Free radicals are very attacking molecules. And they have a way to cope with that. And whenever there is a stress, the cells don't go well, they make a lot of free radicals, which kill the cells. I mean, when there is a stress, there are 2 problems, the stress and the free radicals due to the stress. And if you have those organisms in the leaf, they cope with the free radicals. So the stress is limited to the problem of too much light, too much heat, or a shock. But there is not the over-accident due to the free radicals because it's detoxified by those organisms. So stress protection and protection against herbivores and parasites, it's a lot. Those microorganisms colonizing the leaf, they just take care of the building in which they live.
In other news, because of GMOs, monocropping, and soil depletion, Americans are not getting enough nutrients. That's why in 2018, I founded BeMicro, the first freeze-dried microgreens company in the US to help Americans get more natural nutrition in their diets. Microgreens are a phase in the plant's life, and they're just 14 days old and naturally the most concentrated in vitamins, minerals, and unique antioxidants. Our microgreens are all grown here in the US and certified USDA organic and regenerative organic. We grow, wash, and freeze-dry them to extend their shelf life from 1 week fresh to over 1 year, allowing allowing us to ship anywhere in the US without the worry of spoilage. We have 2 flavors, broccoli, backed by over 2,000 studies on sulforaphane for its powerful detox benefits, and a blend of broccoli, radish, and red cabbage, our most powerful detox formula that we've tested, giving you the most bang for your buck. Easily sneak these into any meal, eggs, pizza, pasta, or even your kids' mac and cheese. We have whole leaf, powder, and capsule options, so you can choose the way that works best for you. Use code PLANT15 to save at BeMicro.farm.
What are vitamins, minerals, what are the nutrients to the plant? Why do plants have these vitamins and minerals?
They mostly do it themselves, even if there are some compounds. I'm thinking of cytokines, which are very important hormones for the plant, especially at germination. They partly rely on these microbes to make the synthesis. But for most of the minerals, we have to go to the roots and find there a symbiosis, which I study with my research teams in Paris and in Gdańsk University in Poland. We work on this association where the roots are not simply roots. When you look carefully under the microscope, there is mycelium. That means there is filaments of fungi colonizing the root, which is healthy once again. And those fungi, they also colonize the soil around, and they go to buy the food in the soil. That means they are fed by sugars of the plants, they develop in the soil, and they collect nitrogen, phosphorus, oligoelements, water, and partly use it, and partly channel it to the plant. So most of the mineral content of the plant, nitrogen, phosphorus, oligoelements, calcium, magnesium, potassium, whatever you want, that's a story of something trade with a fungal associate in the root. And that's a specificity of the microbial associate of the plant. That is, underground, those microbial associate, they can be partly inside, partly outside, foraging for food. And 9 plant species out of 10, they strictly rely on fungal provisioning. Take pinus trees, take eucalypts. If you grow them in a sterile soil, you would expect that there is no illness, and there is no illness in a sterile soil, but there is no those fungi, and they don't grow. This association has a technical name. It's called the mycorrhiza, from myco the fungus and rhiza the root. And it's vital for the plant. Plus, it's protecting against soil diseases.
And what is the fungi? What is mycelium?
For most people, the view of the fungus is what you eat.
Mm-hmm. The fruiting body.
Omelette, if you scramble eggs with mushrooms, that's the reproductive body. That's for reproduction. It produces a teeny dust of cells called the spores. And the spores, when they land on a correct place, they germinate into filaments. And those filaments, they grow, they ramify, the ramification, they reconnect themselves. They form a network called the mycelium. This network is the living body of the fungus that sometimes, and quickly, because there is this whole underground body, the mycelium, produce the reproductive part that you possibly will be eating. And what we discuss here is the fact that this mycelium, that is interacting with the root and allowing them to catch things in the soil.
I've heard people describe mycelium as the internet for the forest. Is that true?
I don't like this at all. First, why the forest only? There is the same in the grassland there is the same in my pot with different plants. The idea is that a given fungus, by growing, can establish interaction with the roots of different organisms. And since they are not very specific to a plant species, they can even interact with 2 different species or 3 different species, simply because the roots of the species are not far away. So, different plants are linked by fungi. That's for true. We know that there are indirect interactions. It was much overstated, by the way, especially in the popular science. There was this kind of vast exchange. It's complex. What I know from my studies is that some plants are abusing this system to get food. We study plants in the forest that don't reach the light, of course, because there are trees, but they are linked to the trees by common fungi, and they take carbon by way of those pipes, if you want, from the trees. And as a result, they survive where the photosynthesis is not sufficient, or even, I think of the wonderful red sarcodes from California. They even are not photosynthetic. They don't carry out photosynthesis anymore. They are not green, so depending on the species, they are brown or sometimes red, like Sarcodes sanguinea, the bloody Sarcodes. So it's a marvelous plant. Look on internet, Sarcodes sanguinea. It's marvelous. But we have white ones, for example, in France as well. And this forest plant, they just extract their food, their carbon, their sugars from the mycelium network between plants. So it does function. It was a bit overstated that it gives help, that plants are giving helps to surrounding plants, but for sure, in temperate forest, the young seedlings, they connect to fungi already fed by the adults. So they get an access to fungi that are prepaid. And they suddenly get partners that explore a lot of soil, which they couldn't afford based on their own photosynthesis and based on what they could give to the fungus. This is called the nursery effect. It's not a direct flow of carbon from the adults to the plantlet. They use something that is paid by the adults. So it's indirect help. And by the way, since the seeds are falling under the mother tree, it's a help to kin, a help to children. That's not a nursery effect for. With an open nursery, it's mostly your offspring. Now, there was also evidence that sometimes when a plant is attacked, some warning signals are running through the hyphae, through the filaments of the fungus. I used hyphae, which is the technical name of filaments, mycelium. But this is not demonstrated in the field. The view of a wood wide web is a bit low because there is a fungus there, and the fungus is not a cable. It's not passive, it has its logic. And whenever there is evidence that the fungus is helping weaker trees, it's not good for the trees because trees, they are in competition. The less surrounding other trees, the best they can explore the soil and get the light. But it may be that whenever the fungi looks like playing Robin Hood by helping the weaker, it may be selected on the fungal side. Because if a fungus allows the competition to eliminate all but one or two trees, if those trees go to death, the fungus is dead as well. If there is a diversity of twigs, a diversity of trunks, if one or two are going to death, there is a kind of insurance. So it may be selected on the fungal side, and it may be a fungal manipulation to equilibrate the competition and help the weaker. It's not in the advantage or in the interest of the plants, no, but it may be in the interest of the fungus. So don't see the fungus as a pipe or as a fiber conducing information. It is an organism that has a logic, and I don't like the forest, the wood wide web, because it's not only in the wood, it's not a web. The metaphor is not leaving space to life.
In the US, mushroom supplements are very popular. Some supplements are fruiting body, and some supplements are mycelium. Do you have a preference on what is healthier for us?
I'm not a dietitian, so I will not comment much on that, but it's true that eating fungi allows you to recover minerals, fibers, which are very good to feed your gut microbiota, your own microbes symbiotic in the digestive tract. It's also providing vitamins. If it's fresh, if it's cooked, then maybe you will have less, and antioxidant. So on the nutritional value in terms of calories or nitrogen, it's not very high, but it's not bad. I mean, it's like salad and so on. It's a good food. So I like the idea that in the diversification of our nutrition, because we are omnivorous, we should eat a diversity of things to cover our needs. And if we eat too much of something, then we start to enter the toxicity of this thing. Too much of meat, for example, is not good for health. In the equilibration of our fooding, I think it's good to have mushroom. Now, I cannot make any recommendation, but I think that every part is good. But also, I'd like to insist on something. It's also good in taste. And it's an important part of nutrition. And for me, I like nothing more than going to the forest in the good season, picking mushroom. As a mycologist, which is my core knowledge, I can pick up tons of species people don't know which are edible. So whatever the time, even if people were foraging for all the porcini, I can find very bizarre amanita that are very good, very bizarre russula that are very good. So I'm always able to catch something. And it's so nice to catch that and prepare 2 or 3 dishes with the different species separated to catch the taste and so on. There is a lot of excitement also, and excitement during the walk in the forest or during preparation of the food or during eating that's life. Huh?
Why do you think mushrooms are so good for us? Why do you think humans have such a strong relationship with mushrooms? Maybe we co-evolved with them and we are in partnership with them.
I wouldn't say we necessarily have a strong relationship with them. For example, the Brits, they have not such a culture of foraging for mushroom and eating mushroom. And in the USA, there was this problem that whenever the toxic Amanita phalloides, the dead cap mushroom, was introduced and started to proliferate, especially in California, there were warning in English, do not harvest that, and it was not changing anything. Then people realized that the ones collecting and eating that poison fungus were the Latinos. They started to make advertising in Spanish, and that was efficient. So culturally, we are very diverse. My wife is Polish. The Polish, they eat a lot of fungus. They can't refrain themselves from collecting fungi. The Brits, there is no culture of collecting fungi, and whenever they eat fungi, it's collected by the Welsh or other people, or the Scots. And in France, we are a bit in between. We don't do it so much, but we possibly do it. So it's very cultural. But it's true that we have a link to that, and we also have this hidden link of using fungi that we don't know as fungi, like in cheese making, bread making with the yeasts, beer making, wine making. So I think we all, independently of our cultural link to big mushrooms, we all once or twice crossed in our cultural evolution the fungi that are microscopic because they were recruited for technology of food. It's also true in Asia, where they use Aspergillus oryzae, which is the fungus that helps yeast to produce sake, for example, or koji, and etc. So there is this story that there are so much everywhere that whenever we evolved cultural practices, sometimes we recruited microscopic fungi.
What do you think of fungi from a spiritual or religious practice?
A French and worldwide known anthropologist, Lévi-Strauss, he wrote something that he called panfungism. His theory is that the feeling of sacred things came from the use of hallucinogenic fungi. His view is that the sense that there are sacred things or energy or beings above us came from the fact that people were using in ritual cultural practices hallucinogenic mushrooms.
Hallucinogenic.
Yeah, and in shamanism, for example, they use a lot of Amanita muscaria.
Psilocybin.
Yeah, psilocybin is used more in Central America, historically. Now it's used a bit everywhere. By the way, one of my predecessors at museum, Roger Heim, was a world specialist in the 50s, 70s of the hallucinogenic mushroom. How do you call it fluently? The hallucinogenic mushrooms, the
magic mushroom, psilocybin.
And he was not only describing them, but testing them on himself. It's a funny story. But he was a president of the Natural History Museum in Paris, a member of the Academy of Science. It was not rubbish. It was his description of that included the impact on our brains, and he didn't abuse, so that was okay. The fact is that it's very possible that it's been contributing to exacerbating our spiritual life at some point. I would say that it's not perfect because hitchhiking with the molecules that are active on the brain and which are not necessarily so dangerous and not necessarily enhancing dependence to the mushroom, they are toxic molecules, like toxic for the brain, but also for the kidney or the liver. So I advertise against using psilocybin, for example. You can try once, but regularly, it's not very good for the body. That's the problem of the totum, as we say in pharmacology, and the purified molecules. The totum is, for example, eating one full leaf of a plant that cure against diarrhea or headache, but you have other molecules that are not necessary and not necessarily good. If you use the purified molecule, you don't have the secondary. You may have some side effects, but you have less due to unwished molecules. So I'm not a huge fan of magic mushrooms. Shall I say it? I was also so scared, but I never tried. So I'm not as powerful as was my ancestor at Museum, Roger Heim, who tried every species he described on himself. I'm not good.
I've tried, and I've found in South America, with a shaman, and in a traditional, in a really good, safe way. And I found it helped me to connect to spirit, God, helped me to connect in with myself. It brought me clarity, and I found it to be very helpful for me to find ease in life.
No, it's often described, and by the way, there are more and more claims that we should use it more in therapies when people have brain problems or behavioral problems, and that we should stop this idea that it's a drug and no drug. We should positively use it. And where you make a strong point is that if you want to try, don't try yourself by trying to identify the fungus and take something else, or you will take too much. Go with someone that knows how to do it, the dose, the good species, and that can give you a company. Don't do it alone.
Is psilocybin legal in France?
Well, the collect of it is illegal in the sites where you can collect it. There is often the police there, looking at people at the season, and you should not sell it. It's considered a drug, but and you know, considering most people they don't know what they collect and how to use it, I can understand that. We made a choice of not speaking of that. So the information of what to use and how to use it is nearly inexisting. Yeah. Well, even if on the internet now you can find everything. And so we are in this register. I think maybe we could make it easier, considering that it seems that psilocybin from Europe, they don't, if you don't abuse, there is no dependency. So you are attracted to use more and more. And they don't really damage deeply the brain or the liver, but at reasonable use. And here is the problem. Do we have reasonable use in a context where we don't spread the information on how to use it because it's forbidden?
Some people, like in the US, coders, people that write code on computers, they'll take a very small amount, they call it a microdose, and they say that it helps them with their creativity and their flow and with their work. Just a very small amount, almost unperceivable amount. Not psychedelic, just a very small amount in the system.
I can imagine that it has an effect on the brain, even at low dose, and not an effect where you lose the control or things like that. But I learned it from you. I'm always a bit warning when there are such use where people report, oh, when I do that, it's blah, blah, blah. Because there is a lot of self-persuasion, placebo effect. Placebo effect is strong, and you can have up to 30% of the effect of a true drug. If, let's say what placebo is. Placebo effect is when people are convinced, this is curing me, this is making me running faster. They take it and actually it cures a bit, you go faster. You will not cure a cancer with that. But for the feeling of being well or being active, being more intelligent, solving more problems, more receptive, etc., it may change, the self-conviction may change the way you behave and perform. That's why we need science. Some people are observing the things and they will tell you whether it's in the range of placebo effect, which doesn't mean you don't have to use it. Many of our medication, it's not written on it, But in France, many of our medication, they are just using placebo effect.
Oh, wow.
The doctor tells you, take that, you will feel better, and people feel better.
Mm-hmm.
But that is not so much useful.
Mm-hmm.
So placebo effect is not a bad thing, but we need science to know what is placebo effect and self-conviction, and what is real physiological effect.
Where does your passion for mushrooms and fungi come from?
And it's not from magic mushrooms. I told you I never
Yes.
tried. I started very early because of school. And it means to me a lot on what teachers can do when they teach well. I was in 5th class, so I was like 12, when the teacher told us, bring fungi to the school, we'll have a lesson on fungi and I will discuss with you what you will bring to me. I was picking mushroom for the classroom, and it was seducing because it was much more diverse than my eye was catching before when I went to the forest. And then he gave some name, and there was this story of each one has a name. I should go on. I was catching more, giving names, and spending my weeks, my evenings after coming back from school or my weekend to pick mushroom, try to see how spores were falling on a paper, to see the color, giving a name, dissecting, writing. I have at my lab now archives from my adolescence, early adolescence, that big of drawings, spore deposits, spore prints, observation at the nearby. I was living in this country, in this surrounding as a kid, to the next door. I have even interesting reports that were reused in inventories and comparison of old and recent inventories of this region. So for me, it was a passion for description observation from the age of 12, and immediately I had the feeling that to understand that I needed a microscope. So I started using the microscope at the age of 14. I was very early a member of the French Mycological Society, where everyone was over 50. And it was very nice because, you know, the old guys, they were taking care of me, introducing me to things. They were coming over with their wife that was carrying the picnic to the forays. And the ladies, they were preparing cookies for me. So I was like a king, you know. Everyone was taking care of me, giving me knowledge, cookies, and attention. And yeah, for me, I'm born in science with the observation of fungi. And then later I shifted to the ecology and the ecology of the one interacting with roots.
And now you're a professor at the National Museum of Natural History. Me and Chelsea visited yesterday. Unbelievable museum. Would you tell us about that museum and some of your work there?
Well, it's unbelievable, but it's a bit oldish. We need a lot of money now to refurbish it because it's old buildings. We celebrate the 400th anniversary of the museum.
Wow, it's so beautiful.
It was established as a royal botanical garden by Louis XIII in 1626. That was the decision. Then they decided to make it in where it is now, in the center of Paris. That, by the way, there is a hill. Did you climb the small hill with a small top gloriette, small top building?
No.
It's a 60-meter high hill that is a waste pile.
Oh, okay.
Because it was at the door of Paris, so people were pushing their waste, and it was making a pile. And there were a lot of piles like that in Paris, but they were then removed. But this one was early covered by the plantation of the botanical garden, so it's the only one we have. It's a historical monument in a way. So it was out of Paris, now it's in Paris, and it went very early into also having a tradition of not speaking Latin but French, being open to anyone willing to come. The teachings were freely open to everyone. 17th century.
Wow.
There was a lot of fight with the Sorbonne University because, you have to speak Latin. They were the only one having the monopoly of dissection. But then the king allowed his garden to make dissections. It started to be also mineral sciences. We had outstanding scientists like Cuvier, Buffon, Lamarck, the father of evolution, the one that created the word evolution, the one that made evolution into science. He has his monument at the entrance of the museum. And we have a long history of having the public in the museum with exhibition, permanent, temporary, animation, receiving classes, the botanical garden, the ecological garden that is not open to public but only to students. We have a small zoo. We have another one, by the way, out of Paris, but we have one on site with not big animals, because we know we tend to have a big surface for each animal, so we cannot have elephants, but still we have that. We have collection of minerals. We have a lot of things to see, and that's why I wanted to come back to this museum in my late career. It's because we make outreach, and I think that doing science without telling it to people, it's useless, because the final users are the citizens. So now I'm there, and I'm very happy to have a part of my job devoted to, like, to be here with you. I mean, you don't feel it maybe, but it belongs to my job to be available for everyone,
Yes.
to discuss the data.
Thank you.
And I have a team working on the ecology of fungi, and especially their relationships with plants. They are mutualistic relationships. That is the one that are reciprocally helping, like the mycorrhiza, the root fungal association. We don't discuss in my team the bad news, but they're also dangerous also for the plants. Some species are also.
This podcast is brought to you by BeMicro, organic freeze-dried microgreens for easy, everyday nutrition. Sprinkle them on any meal and enjoy the benefits. Shop now at BeMicro.farm and use PLANT15 to save 15% off your next order.
We come from Colorado, where we live in nature, amongst the trees, amongst the animals, and Paris is so beautiful. The archaeology, the food, the culture, the people, there's so much beauty here, and it feels a little disconnected from nature. What happens when people are disconnected from nature?
You know, it's not only your country, it's everywhere the same. There's these figures that over the 20 last years, the average distance between where people live and the nearest place of nature was enhanced by 650 meters on average. And this distance is around 16 kilometers in France, 27 in Germany.
Wow.
That's the average distance to nearest nature spot. So there's that, but this distance to nature is also that what we see at the TV, what we read is not dealing with nature. I was myself grown in Bambi, Bernard and Bianca, all those comics of Walt Disney where there were animals. My son has a bit of comics with animals, but he has also Transformers or Marvel. And that's all the time that is not devoted to approach nature by way of the comics or the films.
Today we lean more towards technology and away from nature.
And we need technology. What I will say is not anti-technology, but just we need a cocktail. And if you ever made a cocktail, you know that the story is not to have rum or to have vodka or to have triple sec or a bit of Armagnac. The question is the dose. And our dose of nature is insufficient, and it's a drama. We are on my balcony, and we didn't choose by chance this place, because we have a view on green. There is evidence that people in the city, the more green they have, the best they are.
Yes.
Let me give you a few examples. For the Welsh study of something like 2.5 million of Welsh people shows that every time you are 360 meters farther from the nearest nature point, you have 5% more risk of neural diseases. Yes. In Barcelona, the study of several thousands of pupils whose site of living is known, localized, showed that if you take the 30% more exposed to green and the 30% less exposed to green and follow their brain development and their ability to concentrate, memorize, and act with recently acquired knowledge, there is a deep difference with higher performance of those with green. And all that is not fully explained by sociological, because of course, very often there is a trend for richer people to live in more green conditions. But the level of income or the sociology of the people is not fully explaining the trend. And everything starts in Science magazine in the 80s, where a doctor noticed that after surgery of the vesicule from the biliary vesicle, I think is the name, you have to remove it sometime because it's locked. And he realized that the one with a view on green were going out of the hospital earlier, and they spent 10 to 15% less time in the hospital than the one having a view on the wall from their room.
Yeah.
He made analysis and he recorded, it's amazing this story, they were asking for painkillers. And on the first day, everyone was asking for the same level of painkillers. But starting from day 2, the one looking at the green, they started to very infrequently ask for painkillers, while the others were still keeping with high asking for painkillers. And it was statistically significant difference. Can you guess that? I think we miss something in our brain. That we are born as a species, we evolved in nature, and whenever we don't touch the nature anymore, see the nature anymore, listen, there is even papers showing that the noise of nature, they help. And even some papers, they show that seeing the nature as a painting or as a picture in your room is already a bit doing of the effect. Not fully, but already a bit. We are made biologically, constructed by our evolution to be in nature, and whenever we go out of nature, we don't go to death, where we become a little bit weaker whenever a problem comes. It's a very important lesson. And for the next generations, we should be more active to transmit the idea that, yes, technology is important, yes, chemistry is important, but there are nature-based solutions that we need to activate as well. And this is the best we can do to insist on that, because this is the less explored field of what could make humanity living decently.
What gets you excited for the future? Nature, mushrooms, science, what are you excited about?
I'm balancing between the fact that many people and governments now, they are busy with other stupid story than making people happy. But where I'm excited is that science has been promoting so much of knowledge, so much of data, like the one I just gave you, that we know better than ever what we shouldn't do and what we could do to be more healthy and more happy. One other thing, soil. Don't touch that. It's the place where you put the dead body, where you pee.
It's dirty.
Yeah. In an experiment made in Finland, kids were allowed to play in sand twice 20 minutes per day. Sand was brown due to adding of sterilized turf, no microbe, just brownish, or was made brown by adding soil with tons of microbial soil. Then did it for 2 weeks, and after 2 weeks, the kids with touching the soil, they started to have some soil bacteria on the skin. They stopped, and after 2 weeks, everyone was back to no soil bacteria, so no harm, transient colonization. But in this study, they also studied interleukin, which are the molecules that are regulating the immune system, and they found that compared to those which are not touching microbes, the one touching soil microbes and soil, they had a raise of interleukin 10, which is a regulatory of efficiency of the immune system, and a down of the number 17. Sorry, it's a bit technical, but 17 interleukin is the one that is promoting inflammation, even in wrong case, going to inflammatory problems and sometimes allergy. And so this is the one you don't need too much. You need it a bit technically, but not too much. So actually, in terms of ratio of 10 to 17, the one touching soil had an immune system that was more finely set than the other one. No one was going to death. But simply, if you take it on the long time, the one not touching soil, they may evolve more easily to diabetes, to eczema, to asthma or allergy than the other ones. We are built to touch soil because over generations, we were walking bare feet, okay? Yeah. Not with a sock, bare feet on the soil. And we forgot that. We don't go to death because of that, but we live much less well. Contact with everything in nature, please. And this we know now. So we can make a better future for our kids. That's exciting. You ask me about my excitement. science allowing choice that make you not dictating, but allowing choice that can make you fitter.
What is the state of soil health in the world today? How is soil doing, and why is it so important?
But it's important because everything you are comes from soil. What you eat, but also you have to imagine that in the soil there are some microorganisms. People don't realize that. People know that some microbes are eating the dead leaves, dead cadaver, or the other dead microbes, and releasing the nitrogen, the phosphorus that allows the plant to grow. So they recycle the dead organic matter. What people less know is that in the soil, some microbes, they are attacking with acid the rocks, because it's the way to find calcium, magnesium, iron, phosphorus, potassium, oligoelements for themselves. But it's leaking, and when they go to death, anyway, it's released in soil and goes to plant. And this is what is making you your phosphorus, your magnesium, your calcium, your iron, your oligoelements, boron, silicium, cadmium, selenium, etc. come from this extraction by microbes in the soil, by way of your food, by way of the plants or the animals that have been eating the plants. So I often say that the soil is the placenta of humanity. So it's very important. Do we respect our placenta? Are we respecting it? The way we cultivate was established empirically, but it's not perfect. Plowing is enhancing erosion and killing the life of soil, making soil disappearing slowly. You had in the States the Dust Bowl.
That's from over farming?
Yeah, that's the over plowing. And
Plowing.
now you developed on more than 40% of the surface of your country a no-till agriculture, which is already a big progress. We also leave the soil bare in winter. And that's a drama because what about my small fungi that are interacting with the root? You remember we discussed this, fungi helping the roots. They need the roots to eat. If the soil is bare during a season, they don't grow. They don't grow, and whenever you plant a new plant, there is no fungus. The plant has to restart from the spores to regrow this network of filaments that will feed it. Bare soil. This is also, by the way, fueling erosion. Use of mineral fertilizers and pesticides is also not helping the soil. And you know, the pesticides, there was a recent paper showing that in Europe, what is determining which microbes are in the soil. It's first the kind of rocks present under the soil, second the pesticide, and far behind climate and what people are doing with the soil. So pesticides have a huge impact on our soils.
Like glyphosate. That's a big problem in the US, and why a lot of people in America can't eat wheat, but we come to Europe and we can eat all of your bread and pasta and enjoy it.
There's another problem, by the way, on the bracket, that in the States you often use glyphosate to dry the cereals. That is, to kill them before harvesting, because it's easier to harvest when it's dried. And that is leaving a lot of trace in the food. Here we don't have the right to dry before harvesting with glyphosate.
We've been eating a lot of bread here, and we love it.
Okay, well, in Paris, the baguette is, of course, the thing to taste. By the way, close to here, there is the best, for last year, the best baguette in Paris. Because we have a
Competition.
competition, of course, and it was won by our bakery.
Wow.
It's the one at the corner when you go, you will see there the golden Laurus.
We'll try it. Thank you.
So take one here, there. So coming back to we were discussing
Glyphosate, pesticides, dust bowl.
the soil. On average, worldwide, we say that 60 to 70% of the soils are not going well. It's not durable. In America, you have a good example of farming, because the pre-Columbians, the Amerindians, the true Amerindians, they had no stain, they had no iron technology, so they were not able to plow. They even had no animal to tract. So, speaking of that, we have to take inspiration of this agriculture that was not plowing. And okay, that's one thing, but you will tell me, yeah, but the pesticides and the fertilizers, we need them. Yes, because thanks to them, we were going away from hunger. We resigned from hunger since the beginning of the 20th century. Whenever there is a hunger, it's a war. It's a societal problem, not a technical problem. Okay. One, for fertilizers, use as much as you can manure, waste. Where are going the waste of our kitchens? 100 to 150 kilograms per person a year of organic matter, full of nitrogen, phosphorus, is going out of our kitchen.
To landfills.
Mixed with other garbage, not screened, and yeah. Urine. You and me, we are producing 11 grams of nitrogen per day in the urine, and 0.7 gram of phosphorus per day in the urine. Why doesn't it go to the field? In addition, the urine is nearly sterile. If you want to recycle the poo, then it's very few nitrogen, 0.5, nothing. 1.5 gram of nitrogen, but it's 0.5 gram of phosphorus, which is already a lot. But if you want to use the poo, you have to fermentate it or compost it. It's more difficult, but the urine can be directly used. So we have to think of other fertilizers in addition to mineral fertilizers. And now shifting to the pesticides, there are other ways of making agriculture with hedgerows to impede the transmission of the illness and so on, which it's called agroecology, will lower, not zero, but lower the use of pesticides. Just one example. Your bats in America, in USA, they have an illness due to European fungi that were introduced and killed them. So you have counties with and without bats. In a science journal paper from an economist, listen to me, it's not an ecologist, it's an economist, produced in September 2 years ago, he shows that in the counties where there is no more bats, the farmers have been using insecticides by 30% more. Because the bats, they are eating insects. They are natural pesticides. And when you lose the bat, to do as well in terms of insects, you have to pay 30% more insecticides. But there is more. And that's where it's scary. In those countries, infantile mortality, the deaths of children rose by 8%. And when you look at the figure, this is because of malformation, embryonary development that is not well fixed, or cancers. So it's really related to those pesticides. So you see here that the idea is that whenever you can have bats, have them. In the States, I'm sorry, there is this illness, so it may be problematic. But in my country, having hedgerows allows to have bats living there and to reduce the pesticides. So having hedgerows is not a decoration, it's a technical thing. By the way, we suppressed the hedgerows in the fields at the time where we had the pesticides. So we are no more depending on them for the contribution to pesticide effect or to limit the pests.
Anything else that you'd like to share in our kind of final minutes together? Any other message that you'd like to share?
Nature is a solution. And we have a generation that is guilty in a way of many things we did for the climate and the biodiversity that we didn't do well. But what those generations that were mishandling the nature and the human health were also doing is accumulate a toolbox of knowledge in biology, medicine, and ecology like never. So offering a toolbox for the next generation we never had to just decide what to avoid and to find new way based on nature-based solution. It starts with hedgerows, for example, or it starts with how to help and diversify our microbiota for it to help us. It's also how to use microbes from the plants to prevent illness of the plant and so delay and reduce the use of pesticides. We have a toolbox like we never had. And I'd like to share that. If you don't open the toolbox, we go to death collectively. If you open the toolbox, we just go to light.
For those listening that are the next generation, the youth listening right now that want to get involved in nature, farming, mushrooms, medicine, where might you point them to? Where do you see the opportunity? Where might be an entry point for them to learn and grow and discover their own path here?
I think it's very important that they get the knowledge. So in their curricula at the university, they try to keep a link. That is, they make some biology studies or ecology studies, but if they become doctors or lawyers or politicians, they try to keep an eye on interdisciplinarity. Keep an eye on what's going there, what's happening. They don't have to be good in the sense, but they have to know what's running there and to pick information from specialists whenever they need it. Because we can't go on with having the people that are studying biology and giving the tools to the society on one side, unable really to understand what's happening in the society, and on the other hand, having the politicians running the city and running the countries with no knowledge of what are the technologies that are indeed changing the health and the production of food and the environment. Those with the life technology, they don't have access to piloting the city, and those piloting the city, they don't have access to the toolbox. So they should be, whatever their job, aware that biology is a hope, that ecology is a hope. And either they are in themselves built in interdisciplinarity, or they are specialists of biology and ecology, or they are not at all that, but they keep an eye on it and they ask for means, ask for advice to specialists. And once again, science has not to drive the society, but we can't drive society without science. We did it, and as a result, we have health and environmental crises that are the clear experimental demonstration that this shouldn't be done.
And where can people learn more about you and find more of your work?
Okay, there is a bit on internet. There's a lot in French on internet. If you speak French, there are more than 1,000 issues on internet, conference, video of comment of landscape, of forest, foray, and a few of them are in English, with this perfect French accent that you have been enduring since the beginning of this talk.
Enjoying. Thank you so much, Marc.
Oh, you're welcome.
Okay.
Merci.
Merci. Thanks, everybody.